Right, well, welcome to another edition of Diary of a Sales Expert podcast. It's a real privilege and pleasure to have a fantastic lady who's been in the business development world and the sales and financial services world for some time now. And I've got Bobby Sahota with me today to share her story and some of her journey on being a successful, fantastic lady in the financial services industry. So, Bobby, welcome to the podcast. Thanks for being here. So, look, so for those that don't know you, tell us a bit about your background and what got you into because obviously you've got a role where you're business development director, which, if people know, business development has a sort of sales responsibility. Tell me a bit about your background and what got you into that role, and then we'll open up some things about your sort of method for operating.
So it was quite accidental how I got into business development, because it wasn't something that I planned to go in. So in terms of my career history in the financial services, it started up when I was 20 at the West Bromwich Building Society as a customer service advisor. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. Didn't know what I wanted to do, but I just thought it's probably somewhere where I can build a career. Never ever did I want to actually be a financial advisor, or never. To be honest, I didn't even know what they did. I didn't even know what they did. So when I joined the West Bromwich Building Society, and I think it has been quite critical in terms of my whole career, is the people that I was around. So the leadership team were very kind of focused on personal development, growth, and I had the opportunity then to be involved in sort of some of the kind of external courses and things like that they did, so professional development. And my probably turning point in my career was having the opportunity to do a 3-day event in London Excel with Anthony Robbins on one of his
you're more through the fire, basically, when he said unleashing the power within, basically, was it?
Yeah, so it was that. I think that's when it was like it kind of opened my mind up to kind of other areas rather than traditional route of being what at the time I thought was, you come in, you do a job, and there's only one way to kind of to do a job, if that makes sense. So I think at the time I was and I think it was might have been a savings advisor, different roles within the West Brom Building Society. But I knew that if I put my mind to something, I could achieve it. So because, as I said, at the time, the leadership team were very kind of focused that way. That was kind of the start of my journey with regards to kind of delving deeper in terms of things like the law of attraction, vision boards, goal setting, performance. And that, I would say, has been the basis of the foundation of my career, in having the right people around and kind of opening up those doors in terms of the possibilities. And again, like throughout West Bromwich Building Society, so I worked as a customer service advisor, then went into like savings advising, did mortgage advising for 5 years, and then financial planning manager. Every single one of those roles really achieved like awards, top advisor, team awards, and things like that. I think probably the biggest success during my early years of my career was following the Anthony Robbins and going on to the financial planning route. Was I set myself a goal in my first financial year of I wanted to be financial advisor of the year. Now there were some big hitters within the industry, but I got there. I was at the time, I think I was about 6 months pregnant at the time, so I was having my son, but I didn't want to. I think there was that bit in me I didn't want to be that advisor that's, she's going to have a baby and she's not, because women are kind of like put in that box that what's happening,
not so much now, but they were
not so much now. as in, that's it. Like, she's gone to have a child and she's going to come back and she's not going to be as motivated. But I actually remember like receiving the financial planning manager award when I was I remember the picture because I was pregnant. I can't remember how many months I was, but that for me that was quite a big thing in terms of like with everything. My first full year in financial planning, and I've achieved like the ultimate accolade amongst all these big hitters. I think from then on, it was always like, well, if I put something down, and it was something that I'd put on my vision board,
Yeah.
and that's when I really started to kind of delve more into like the goal setting and mindset, belief, and setting myself quite ambitious goals and targets. And then when as I said, when I started to see that success, I implemented it with the teams that I worked in as well. So I said I had good 12 years at the West Bromwich Building Society. I probably got a bit comfortable then.
Yeah,
got comfortable because
at that point though, we always, because obviously if you were in a customer service or customer advisory role, we always really good with people back then. Was that a skill that you felt you'd had, or you were able to develop?
I don't think I don't think I was, because I wasn't the most talkative person. Like I remember when I first joined, and it was a bit of a shell shock because I was 20, and I had like either side of me two. I remember actually there was Sheila on one side and Brenda on one side, the two customer service advisors at the time who had years of experience, and I was quite bored. I was like, and they used to chat to the customers coming in, and I was thinking, what do I even talk to these people about? So I was actually very, very quiet. I was quiet, but I was quietly confident. Because whereas they were good with talking, I was like very focused on this is how many, like at the time I went to make book appointments.
Yeah.
But it was how I saw it. So I saw it as in, and I think this is with any role that you're in. If you genuinely believe in what you're providing, and I know we've come out to the podcast and we said we're talking about sales, but if it's not really sales, it's providing that service. So people talk about, oh, are you in sales? I think that's what it's not really right, because it is a service industry.
You agree more? There's a phrase I used to be. I say to people, great salespeople, people have this misconception that sales is all about pushing someone to do something they don't want to do. I always talk about people being the great salespeople are problem solvers. They actually listen to people, and they try and find out what's going on in that person's world and then help them solve an issue, because people only buy it because of a problem, right? If there's a problem or desire to do something, that's the only reason someone's going to buy it. So it's becoming a problem.
Yeah, definitely. So, as I said, when I initially started my career as a customer service, it was like a cashier role. I was only in it for like 12 months before I moved on and progressed in my exams and things like that. But even then, my role wasn't to sell them or give them advice, because I wasn't qualified to do it. It was just to get them in front of an advisor to sell the benefits of that advisor. So in terms of that, like, that was the biggest thing, is we as customers, we believed in the people that we were putting these clients in front and what they were doing, and it all comes down to the whole kind of training aspect of it with anything. If you genuinely believe that whatever you're trying to achieve is for the benefit of the person that you're serving, then it's a win-win.
I think that's such a brilliant way to look at it. And again, we're going to talk about business development and our YouTube, but that's such a great, refreshing way actually to think about it, especially when it comes down to money, which is what we'll talk about in a bit later on, which is where you've made your career, because that's a very sensitive area for a lot of people. So actually, there is that concern that people feel that they've been pushed in a direction they don't want to go in, or that they get asked to do something they don't want to. Whereas actually, if you're trying to really help someone solve an issue or deal with something that's going on in their mind, then actually they warm to it, don't they? And that's probably why you've had the success you've had.
I think that the thing it comes down to is trust. There's got to be that element of trust in terms of it shows, doesn't it? You know, like you say, if you've got that somebody they're trying to sell you something you might not even need. It's like they say, like ice to Eskimos, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is that. What's the point? But if you can genuinely find that need and that connection as to why, then it shows. It's quite natural, like not just in, like as I said, the customer service role, but as a financial planner, and it's going in with that mindset, because there are advisors, and as I said, been in the industry for a long time, where they're very target driven to their needs as opposed to the client's needs. So you've got the traditional old school salespeople that are badgering them about, I need this income, you've got no appointments, and all that kind of like nonsense that shows as well. So if they're going in to see a client with the view that I need to get this because I've got my sales manager on my back, that is evident to the client. But if you're going in on the basis that, like with everything, I was said, like I just kind of just keep an open mind. Like I don't know what at the end of this meeting what it's going to result to. Either way, if it's something that we can progress, I'll tell. If it's something that I don't think that you need, I'll tell you. Either way, like for me, it's like I've done my job correctly if I put you on the right track, whether it's with me or not with me, because you don't need that. And that's where you sorry, you can say something.
You're going to say,
No. I was going to say, I think that's where the whole trust building comes in, because if you are genuinely, as I said, like serving the person in front of you, even if it doesn't help you in your sales figures or there's an outcome out of it, that you don't know the ripple effects of you doing the right thing. And it's doing that right thing, because so many, like I've been successful throughout my career, and predominantly a lot of my clients have gone through recommendation. Some people I don't even know that they've got my number off someone, and it's not even clients, it's maybe someone I've had conversation with or initial meeting with, and it's not gone anywhere. But I've been quite open and truthful about, this is what, there's no kind of benefit to the business or to me, but actually for you, I don't think it's the right thing, and I think you should and just pointing them in the right direction. But it instills that confidence, doesn't it, in the industry as well, or the profession, should have read.
So, when I talk to so many people about sales, it's one of the old methods on which I've approached the whole element. I used to be with desperation's a stinky aftershave or perfume, right? If you're in a desperate environment where you're trying to hit a number, and I call it that element whereby you're trying to look like you're too keen for the business, it puts people off you, right? It puts people off you. It's like I said, sales is like, I always say to people, sales is like dating. I always say to people, if you go on a date with someone, the first thing they said to you is, "Do you want to get married?" You'd be like, "Back off." But people go into this in procession that they've got to try and push something down someone's path. That's not what it's about. And it's so refreshing to hear. So that's why you've been successful, because when you've got that sense of what's right for the other person, what's right for that buyer. And I guess I'll lead them on the next question. That's why questions are so important, right? Because you ask great questions to find out what's driving people and to find out what's really... Exactly.
And that's what it's not. There should be an agenda, but it should be the client's agenda in terms of what's important to them now going forward, and setting that time as a financial planner. My job is to educate them around what their kind of current position is. Whether they take my advice or not, that's up to them. If I'm doing my job correctly and I've explained the reasons why, because the clients that will get the best from the service are the ones that are open and you've got the full picture. Because I've seen it before when I've gone into client meetings from other advisors and I've picked up, say, the previous kind of notes and fact find. And when I go and meet them, they don't tally, and they don't tally because they probably haven't felt comfortable in telling them. And then all of a sudden I find all these other assets that they're not disclosed because they only want to speak to them about that because that's all they've spoken about. So again, that's a disservice.
Yeah. One of the questions was actually, what so many people get nervous talking about money, don't they? I guess, but what makes, and you just, I was going to ask you, why do you think that is? And you probably answered the question, is because they don't feel comfortable engaging with the other person, basically, and sharing that information.
It is actually really, it's quite worrying, actually, when, I've picked up clients that have been with their advisors for like 20 years, sometimes 15, 20 years. For example, if we've previous firms where we've acquired a business and, have had may have had a pension that advisor's looked after, well, probably not looked after, taking a commission and just let it run.
Just let it, be responsible for it, but not responsible for it, maybe.
Yeah, taking a cut just because they started it up, and then you go and see them and you talk to them about what you do, and they're like, well, I've got this, and this, but I thought he was the pensions guy, because that's all they ever talked about. So that in itself, again, and I think this is where, in terms of the FCA regulations, consumer duty, it's brilliant because having that in place has set the bar in terms of the professionalism and the standards that are set. So what, certain firms and advisors have got away with in taking client ongoing money, eating into their pensions, their children's inheritances, that's something that is really a focus for the FCA at the moment.
I think we're going to see, maybe, I could be wrong, but I think we're going to see a number of bits of legal elements in the next few years of money, in the same way as lots of claim elements coming back. I think we're going to see that in time. But we've digressed into lots of areas, and we've got away from your career, which is great because he's talking about the stuff that you. But at what point did you know then that you were pretty good at this sort of business development sales angle? Then, at what point did your career?
It's actually funny. It's because I haven't really been in business development. Like the title, it's only in this current role with Attivo, 6 months I've had the title of business development. And but probably even though I've the previous years, I've probably done it to some degree, but not had the title. So when people say how long about the actual role, the title, business development director, that has only been over the last 6 months, and that is purely because, I met with this chairman, CEO, and it was him that suggested it. He was like, "Oh, have you ever thought about that?" And I was like, "Oh no, this is," and he was like, "I think you'd be really." So it was him that suggested. I actually really enjoy it because it doesn't matter whether it's a client or an introducer, a stakeholder partner, etc. It's just being able to connect with people and having those kind of relationships where you can work together. I think that's what it is.
But it's funny because I know you say you're not, this is what I love about doing these podcasts, because when you say, "Oh, I'm not naturally in the," it's not an area of role, but the fact of the things you talked about are what make great sales and business development, whether it's sales or business development, that's what makes good salespeople, is the ability to focus on the client, really what the client cares about, the ability to be able to ask great questions and find out, be curious. I would say to people, be curious. To be curious about the other person, be interested in them. Be interested, not interesting, is what the phrase I always use. And actually be interested in what that person's doing. And if that, like you say, that you can't sell to them, or sorry, if they want A and you offer B, hey, that's okay, right? Because the chances are they're going to say to you, "Oh, thanks for being so honest, Bobby," and then the next time they'll go and speak to someone, they'll say, "Do you know what? This lady I met was lovely. She was able to recommend something for me that was better for me," and and they'll keep an eye out for you in that in their other conversations, won't they? Which helps you a lot.
I think as well, this is where, in terms of the whole business development, your traditional breakfast networking meetings and all that kind of stuff, although I think I love the kind of face-to-face and meeting, I just don't feel that sometimes that setting, everybody's got an agenda. Where I think now, in terms of where business development and having that online presence, LinkedIn, it just gives people a little bit of snapshot of what you're about, whether that's your values, what what you're interested in. Like I do like in terms of obviously we connected today because of LinkedIn. So you've seen I've connected with Sam Oates and did a podcast with him. And that was just purely from the back of a post that resonated with him. I pick up like introduce clients that want to work with him because there's something there. And in this day and age, your clients will research you and have a look and look at your LinkedIn to get a bit of an idea before they actually commit to kind of choosing you and sort of having you as a someone trusted that they want to work with. So I do feel that the way in terms of business development, it is really changing. And I said, like, LinkedIn for me has been brilliant. There's so much opportunity that's come from it.
Well, I couldn't agree more. And I've been having conversations with a number of organizations, financial organizations that I work with, and their teams to say, look, get familiar with LinkedIn, use it. But just go back to some of the, because I think, from what our conversations and from watching the the interview you did before, which is a great podcast interview, I can sense who you are and what you're about. But what do you think some of the biggest mistakes that you've seen other people in the financial industry make when it comes to business development? Because you're very good at it because you focus on the client. But what are some of the, you mentioned about that sort of desperation, but is there anything else in particular that you see others that are, let's call it more traditional, that you think actually that's you're doing this wrong?
I just think that, like, I see your traditional one will be kind of like going out and taking people for lunches and hospitality and all that kind of stuff, which is great for the person that you're entertaining. But if they don't connect with you, they're not. It doesn't matter if you meet them once for a coffee or you take them to Cheltenham races. It makes no difference. They will, and this is what I say, like, not everybody is going to connect with you. So you've got to find the people that will connect, and everybody's different. There's different people who will kind of warm to kind of different personalities or So I think but that's where you're going to get that buy-in, because if that connection, like, for example, I know people that are on LinkedIn that have got a presence, etc. You might not get somebody that's commenting or liking or whatever, but people are watching.
Yeah.
They are watching, and I've had like I know, like, if I wanted a professional in a certain area, because of what I've seen, I know who I'd approach, whether it's an accountant, solicitor, marketing, because I've seen and I've just, there's something about them that has resonated with me. So that actually, I don't need this service now, but if I did, this is who I'd go to.
Yeah. And I think it also, good thing about LinkedIn and those sort of tools is that you also start to see, I always call it a congruency, right? You start to see who people really are, across multiple. I mean, there's a lot of, I'm sure you've seen it before, the 7-11 4, where you need 7 hours of content across 11 interactions across 4 media to trust someone. And if you watch videos and content and materials and see them on LinkedIn and see messages, you build up a picture of people, don't you? People build up a picture of you, and it's that, and they're not seeing you being a Bobby here and a different Bobby over here. They're seeing the same person. They go, she's really honest. She's true. I can trust this person because she's not a difference in one to the other. And I think that's one of the few things that people try and do in selling. They try and be something different that they're not.
Yeah, and that's the thing, and that really does, it shines through, doesn't it, in terms of, I mean, I hate the word authentic, but it is, isn't it? It's being your authentic self. And, it doesn't matter whether you're kind of like speaking to somebody on a Monday or a Friday, your message is consistent. Yeah. And that's just simple, really. Like, I think people complicate it, complicated on their times.
Exactly. Well, so you obviously you moved into there, but you have been very successful with clients and engagement. What are some of the sort of key, top 2 or 3 tips that you use when you're engaging with someone for the first time that you think are, just the other critical things that you use to build that rapport and build that engagement with people initially? Is there anything in particular that others listening can learn from you in that respect?
What you just said is listen. like that's a big, like learning to listen, but also kind of, it's quite a skill being able to kind of get people to talk as well. So I think, well, let's say like in terms of the trust, it is that kind of like you know when you talked about in terms of people can smell it a mile off, that cheap aftershave or whatever. Like it is your energy and your aura that has that effect on whether someone feels relaxed.
Yeah.
I don't know to talk to you, but it's like the little things. Like if I'm having a conversation with somebody, I need to make sure that I'm present and I'm giving them like my time, and I'm not. And this is why, like in meetings, like I see some advisors take their laptops and they're typing away, but it kind of puts that barrier in place. So for me, if I'm like I use a one-page document, if I'm going to see a client, there is there's information that I need to. I'm not going to retain everything, but I don't use screens because I see that as a barrier. I use a one-page document, but I'm looking at them, eye contact, and I'm listening. That that really is key. And then, as I said, like it's having that genuine, not looking for an outcome, but looking at, is there a potential area in terms of how can I help this person or how can I serve this person? And if I can't, you know what, just be honest and
saying, hey, it's okay. We can't work this out. Basically, we need to let each other go, and we've only lost half hour of time or whatever. That's how I think we go.
Yeah, but I think as I said, it's a two-way thing, isn't it? When you're going to meet a client in their home, there's so many conversation points, isn't there? And it's just finding that one thing that you resonate with. I actually remember quite early on in my career, as actually before I had my son, one of my sales managers, they were called sales managers at the time, observed an interview with me, and he was like, Bobby, he said, I don't know how you convert these clients. He said, because you don't build rapport. And I was like, what do you mean? And he was like, you're not interested in what they do. And I was like, oh, I'm not interested. This is my words. So I don't like doing all that mushy stuff because I was younger. I wasn't really interested about grandchildren, children. I didn't have any children of my own. Like, and to me, I was like, oh, I don't like doing all that mushy stuff. But anyway, the same sales manager, after I'd had a child, like after my son, I came back and he observed me. His name's Paul. Paul said, oh my God, you're like a different person. He was like, what's happened to you? Like, what's happened to you? You're asking them about your children. And I said, because I am actually interested now. I wasn't before. And that is part of as you grow up and your life experiences. And there's something that connects you with that clients. Obviously, in the building society, I had a lot of older clients, and I probably hadn't. Yeah, I was quite young. I didn't really travel that much. There was nothing really that I could connect with them. And then he'd say, like, well, he said, you asked the question, but you're not really interested. I was like, oh, what are you doing today? So I'll do the normal kind of chit chat, but I wasn't that interested. And he was, he'll say, well, I said, I used to be like, well, what do you mean? And he said, well, they just told you they're going to pick up the grandson. Why didn't you ask them? And I was like, I'm not interested, Paul. I'm not interested, Paul. So if I'm not interested, why am I going to make out that I am? Because I'm not. It's just, and I think that is me. Like, if I'm not interested, I'm not interested, and I won't. Obviously, life experience and age and like all that kind of stuff. You become a different person. I think children definitely change you. Well, my child does.
Just said something there, which I think, again, you've said so many, again, you probably don't, there's so many golden nuggets that you've shared here about being interested in that person. I always talk to people about, there's a method I use in a conversation called LAPS, which is listen, ask, probe, and summarize. I always say to people, if you probe, when someone says, oh, we've had a rough day, and you go and go, okay, move on to the next question, they're gonna be a bit at the back. Whereas if it's, oh, so sorry to hear that, what's been happening? Now, of course, oh well, we had the problem with the roof in the garage. Oh no, what's been happening? What's going on? All right, you don't want to go on and spend 45 minutes talking about
No.
the garage, but you want to. They actually then feel that you've listened to them and you've actually understood the fact they've got a roof problem in the garage, and then they feel a bit listened to and warmed to, and it
Yeah.
warms them too. And that's part of that active listening process, isn't it? To then, and also, as I say, to probe and probe with empathy, I always say, but just to dig a little bit more deeper. Tell me what's been happening there and what's gone on, and all right, you mentioned this, and it just builds that affinity.
It builds up. But like I said, like, and people say, like, when did you realize, like, it's because of obviously the training, the development, the people that I've like mentors that I've had over the years that's helped me now to get to a stage where I don't think anybody's a finished article because you can always learn and the world's changing and all that kind of stuff. But I do feel that when like as you develop, you kind of find things you pick, like I said, little nuggets of different people. And if I said to somebody, this is what I do, you do that, it's not going to work because what's natural and easy for me might not be for somebody else. But yeah, I think people, when you do well, people think that you're naturally kind of good and it's always been that way. But
Yeah,
it is kind of learning along the way. And I always say, and people don't believe it, I used to be really quiet, like pretty, you know what? People laugh, and I used to be quite quiet, although I was confident. And I actually remember when I was at the West Bromwich Building Society before I joined. Before I became a financial planning manager, I was a mortgage advisor, and I did that for 5 years. Did really, really well, but I'd done my exams, and I remember that it does come down to leadership. So my manager at the time pushed me forward to go and do the exams, and there was somebody else at the time because I was so quiet. I was classed as a risk. I was a risk because how's she going to talk to clients? But it was because that one person believed me and pushed me through because I knew obviously they saw something in me that would push me forward. I said like consistently year on year, I was in like the top 5 and the mortgage advisor of the year. So sometimes I said it's like you've got to sometimes just have the right people that will help you progress your career, and this is why leadership is so important for people that want to kind of progress in their career.
it's such a great point. And I was listening to a podcast the other day when someone was talking about leadership being about stretch. What was a great phrase? You like this, I'm sure, which is stretch people so that they feel safe, but also make sure that they're safe even though you stretch them. So the idea being is that you've got that safety blanket to be able to know, if something happens that they've got your back and they're going to support you, but push them and give them that challenge, give them that sort of element.
But this is this is the thing, James, isn't it? It's like when we've spoken a lot about like kind of sales. We've mentioned the word sales a lot. And I also think in terms of like the old school in financial services, the old school sales manager, kind of that role, there is a clear difference between management and leadership. I've seen it like, with the traditional, like your management, and there is a place for that, but you generally tend to find that managers create followers, whereas leaders create leaders, and they will empower and they will get the best out of people. So again, like I said, in terms of career and opportunities for someone starting off, I always feel like I've had like mentors throughout my kind of career, both in work and outside of work. Over the last few years, I've had external like mentors, people that I've worked in the past, but not in the business that I'm in now, because I do feel that sometimes that your manager can't be your mentor because it creates a bit of a conflict. depending on what their agenda is. Like you say, if you treat people well enough, that Richard Branson's saying, isn't it? Treat them kind of well enough that they want to stay, but allow them to grow, and kind of create those opportunities for them. So yeah, I do feel that like having a mentor in place gives you that unbiased kind of opinion, and it also stops you from making like bad decisions. And I kind of, because I'm one of those people that I kind of make decisions on emotion,
Yeah.
and I probably would have made some silly mistakes had I not sounded off to somebody else. And just having a balanced view of actually, you know what, having this, and I did what's your take on it? And then when you look at it from both angles, it gives you a different perspective, as opposed to, you're going to get a different answer if you go to your manager, your leader, or your chairman, whoever it is, whoever you report into, because that's going to be very company biased.
Yeah, and I think you're quite right. And that sort of, like you said, leadership and mentorship and training and support is actually something that I think a lot of companies don't do enough of right now. I mean, I'm reading a book at the moment, actually, the qualified sales leader. I mean, it's sales related, but it's talking about actually how, it's all about actually the best way to be that support mechanism. You mentioned about Ian going out with you to see a client, right? Okay, going out with you to see that client. How many people now go out with their clients, with their team? Very few in some cases. Okay, now it may happen in some organisations, that hopefully it does, but very few, because managers are really busy. They've got numbers to hit and things to do, and whatever else. But that level of support that Ian gave you at that time, which you then reflect.
I know it was Paul.
Paul, sorry, I apologize, I got Paul wrong. But that you did say it, Ian. I'm sure I think you did. Maybe you did. Maybe I haven't listened properly as my active listening, but with Paul. But Paul's advice is what he gave you there helped you change. It helped you evolve, right? And it's who's doing that for people.
I didn't have a choice, because we had to have observed interviews.
Okay, fair enough.
Back in the building society, like that's as part of the compliance, as they sat in on your meetings. So again, I think I see it so much where in our profession, you've got all these companies doing these training academies, but they're actually not providing the support. So you'll get people on a 6-month, 12-month, 2-year, whatever academy, and all it is they're doing their exams, and then they're out there, but they've had no coaching, mentoring. They've not gone out with advisors and like developed in that sense, where I think that's one of the things I do feel that within Attivo, we have a structured kind of career plan in terms of different options that you can take. Exams and qualifications are very important. We're a chartered firm, but in terms of the level of support, our most experienced associate directors, they're all chartered. We are a chartered firm, but they will have like trainee advisors that will come and join them in their meetings, help them do the reports. That level of training, you don't get that everywhere. It is a case of, you do your exams, sit on a 2-week course or something and learn a process, and out there you go. And you have to kind of just find yourself.
It's interesting you mentioned that. I was actually talking to a colleague in the industry, based in Essex, who is involved in the Institute of Personal Finance Society, and he was saying that a lot of their younger financial planners, they're looking to do some training, and we're having a discussion around that. But he was saying a lot of them don't have this soft skill training, as he calls it. They don't have someone going out and giving them that ideas of how to build that knowledge. I think it's really important. So on that point, actually, if you were, and we're conscious of time, because I could talk to you all day about your stuff, because I love the values and the models and the methods you approach things with. But if you were listening to this as, let's say, a younger, maybe a younger Bobby, when you were sort of in your, when you started out, maybe on your financial planning sort of career, or maybe you've been growing your career and you're doing out. What would be the sort of top 2 or 3 things, bits of advice that Bobby would give, those people now, in terms of how to build better relationships with clients, and to how to build a book of business, for want of a better phrase? And because that's what everyone wants to do. They want to be successful and grow. But What advice would you give people that are on that started on that journey now?
Yeah, I would say develop your network. Yeah, as I say, your network is your net worth. um, have a mentor in place, preferably somebody that's been in the industry, and they will help you with the opportunities and put you in touch with people that will be able to help you. Um, I would say possibly with anything that you do, there's no point in what does success look like? Have clear goals in place because, we talk about people are looking to be successful, but what's successful to me may be something completely different to somebody else. Like everybody's
What
got
does
this.
success
So
look like, right?
yeah, be specific on your goals. What are your goals? What you want to achieve? Write them down. Have a plan in place by when. Because unless you write those goals, that's one thing I've always done. Like in my, obviously we've always had targets, but I've always broken them down. This is what I want. And I normally add about 20% on top because I want to do more than. And there's not a time where I've not achieved a target. Like that's just because I've done it the right way. I've done it the right way. I've been genuine in terms of what I want. Like, as I said, like the outcome is to be able to help a client. And as I said, that will come, but without having clear, defined goals, how do you know what success looks like?
Can you? I talked about target. If you don't know, so Zig Ziglar used to say, if you don't know where you're heading, then you'll drift into the rocks, right? It's just like a ship doesn't leave, it doesn't leave the port and go, oh, where should we go today? They're
Yeah.
going from port A to port B, and they've got a clear path. And even though there may be waves and whatever else that buffer them out of that direction, that's their pathway. But
Yeah.
it's about having that clear pathway in that respect, isn't it? So unfortunately, if people don't have that, it's gonna be a challenge, and that is a difficult thing I think for a lot of people though in nowadays. I think people don't have those goals and that vision. But you mentioned a vision board. I've got a vision board, but you maybe
I think
it
as
gives an
well.
opportunity to go to
Yeah. And so I think as well, I would say like we invest as businesses, we invest in exams, like we're paying for people's exams, but actually we're not actually investing in people.
yeah
We're not like, and if I look back in terms of my successes, where I've been successful and turned branches around, had record years and things like that. My success isn't just based on it's based on the leadership
yeah
in terms of how they have helped me, which has then enabled me to kind of push that back and get my team involved. So, like as I said, like any business, like your people are the foundation to your success, and creating that culture where people are aligned with the business values, the mission statement, all that. That is crucial. When people feel part of something, it has that kind of ripple effect.
I couldn't agree with you more. And there's a great stat that I share from a good guy called Elliot Dexter on there, and he talks around how especially millennials, who are the sort of next generation of workers. There's this great stat that Harvard Business Review shared, which was 86% of millennials think that a company's job is to make a social impact, whereas only 34% of millennials think a company's job is to make profit. So actually, if you think about that element around where people are going to go, they want to be on a pathway to a direction somewhere, to a mission, a vision, something big, isn't it? It's not just about the company making money, which was the old sort of school side of it.
Well, and also I think like it's not like you just said, it doesn't matter. People's priorities and what they want, it's not all about money. Like it's not. If you can pay somebody and keep paying, but that's not going to keep them to stay. If they don't feel part of something, if they don't feel aligned, if they don't feel part of like that their values are aligned, then eventually the money aspect of it only lasts so long.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's about creating that vision and into. I again, I say it to a lot of organisations. Like if you go back to when NASA, years ago when they interviewed the cleaner at NASA, and they said to him, what's your job? He said, I'm here to help put a man on the moon. Yeah, back then it was that even though they were the cleaner, it was still the job was to get someone on the moon, basically. And it's getting everyone involved in that bigger picture, isn't it? And obviously,
I suppose it's like it's like when we look at people talk about branding, external, like your branding of your products, etc. I actually think like your biggest kind of marketing tool are your people, your internal brand. Your biggest advocates are your people that work with you within that business. Your biggest brand advocates. That's the best marketing. You can have the best logo. People think that's brand, but actually it's everything else that underpins it. And it's not just about, we're going to recognize this set of people, for example, financial planners, because they bring in the money. Without those, like without the people that do all the administration and the power planning and all that support, that wouldn't come. So it's just making sure that everybody feels that they're valued. So when people feel valued, you will get the best out of them and for the business. Yeah.
It's coming back from, like you say, to good leadership. So we could have gone all day, but I'm conscious I've used up a lot of your time, and you very graciously agreed to speak with me today and to be on the podcast. I really, really appreciate that. Just a couple of final things. You mentioned one quite final couple of questions. You mentioned about targets there, and you've always hit targets. How do you go about, for anyone again, that targets are a difficult thing because you had a target. I think you recently climbed Mount Kilimanjaro, which is fantastic. So I know we won't get into lots of detail on that, but that was I'm guessing you had to break down the target bit by bit there. But how do you encourage people that have got targets or goals or things they want to achieve? What's your secret to achieving that sort of success? Is there any sort of tips that you can give people as?
What I would say is, like, you can have a target, you can write down that target, but if you don't believe that you are able to achieve that target, you're never going to do it. So that's got to be inherent. When you're writing your goals down, you believe that it's done. Like, I think it's more of a case of, like, kind of not just writing it down, but actually feeling that you're able to achieve that, and you kind of, there's nothing that's going to stop you. It's having that determination, resilience, and kind of
thought process. It's like in a belief, isn't it? It's in a belief that you're going to make it happen.
Yeah, and I think sometimes, and then they do say, like, with your goals, be careful of who you share them with. I have learned that because it doesn't matter how positive you are or what kind of person you're, what your drive is. If you share that with the wrong person, that can instill a limiting belief, and it's normally their limiting beliefs that they push on to you. But it can have a detrimental effect, because you think, why are they saying that? But you've just got to understand that we're all at different stages, and the difference between a fixed and a growth mindset is being, like I said, you surround yourself with people that are kind of on your level and your energy, and they can reciprocate that. You don't kind of share your goals and your vision with somebody that's or somebody that doesn't believe in it. But it's probably and don't take it personal, that it's probably a reflection of them as opposed to you.
Which goes back to your network comment, which is why I think a lot of people talk about, was that other phrase that people say, you are pretty much you embody the 5 people that you're closest to in your life. And ultimately, if the people that you surround yourself in your network are a bit toxic or not promoting growth, and are not driving you forward, then the chances are you're not going to get to where you want to be. So sometimes it's about being able to try and elevate yourself and surround yourself, like you say, with people that have that same growth mindset and that thought process that everything can be achieved. And if we going down a pathway to make that happen, it's exciting, isn't it?
I think I was actually talking to somebody, like, as I said, like, with me, I'm the kind of person that I react. So I have it, and this is why a mentor is very good for me. But what I've learned a lot over my kind of career. But what I have learned is that, again, with people with the fixed negative mindsets, generally it's down to, as I said, a reflection of them, but there's some kind of insecurity, that there's something in them that they're insecure about. And when they see somebody that's confident and like with clear goals, because they're not like that, or they haven't, the only way that they can deal with it is attack. Yeah. So that's why I say, like, be very careful with people that are going to bring you down or elevate you, because it does have a lasting effect. And I think, as I said, that's one thing I've learned is, do you know what, like, just don't share. Like, let them feed their own egos, or like just kind of lead them to it. If that's what their beliefs are, then.
And the other side of that, when you have got people that then do champion you up and that do lift you up and do make you feel that, you know, and that tell you can achieve anything, it makes you feel $1 million, doesn't it? It makes you feel like you can go and take on the world.
Yeah, definitely. It does. It's just how it is. It's like that ripple effect, like I say, like why I feel that it's so important to have that culture and build that within a business, because, you know, people talk about like businesses that want to elevate and grow, and you can spend as much money as you want on your processes, technology, the marketing, branding, all that kind of stuff. But if you spend that time on leadership training, emotional intelligence, how to
soft skills training, people, enabling people to work better with other people, right? Yeah.
Enabling people and have that team collaboration, the ripple effect on that, like, like I said, the ROI and the investment in people is going to have a profound effect. Than spending X amount on a marketing campaign. Yeah. As I said, like, you're creating, you're kind of creating that energy within, which then kind of
goes out to the as I was saying, we finish up with, I was saying, good external marketing begins with good internal marketing. So, which is, or the other phrase I like to use, which is, marketing make the promise, HR deliver the promise. So the idea being is that actually it's the marketing that might tell people actually what Attivo are going to be, but it's the organizational culture and team that are going to be, how do we make sure we deliver to this, and to make sure that what we actually put in front of our clients is the reflection of that. And that's always why John Lewis used to be so good, doesn't it? Because you'd go to John Lewis and their partnership team would care and they'd show that love and that attention. And when you go to any environment, any company, where you feel that everyone in the company, I was telling people as well, I went to I don't know if you've ever been to Bletchley Park. So really, you and your son might enjoy it as a day out. It's a great place where they did the code breakers in the World War. And we went there last year, me and my wife, and the first thing the guy in the car park said, "Oh, good morning, welcome to Bletchley Park. We're so excited to have you." And then I thought, wow, he wasn't just a person just walking into the car park. He was like, "Oh, it's so lovely to have you here with us." And you thought, and then you went in and everyone was this buzzing, and you felt, what a brilliant place.
Do you know what? I'll tell you something, like, in terms of, you talk about John Lewis, and throughout my career, I've worked at West Bromwich Building Society, I worked at Nationwide, worked at my previous company, AFH, and I'm currently like at Attivo. It's quite exciting at the moment because we're kind of in that growth phase of Attivo. But if I was to look at my previous 3 kind of major places that I worked, in terms of like culture, Nationwide, oh my God, like when I worked there, that's when I realized like how different like the service sector. And it's quite funny because my brother, he's about 12 years younger than me. When I started working at Nationwide, he started saying that, "Oh, since you've worked at Nationwide, you've become a Karen." I said, "What do you mean?" Because my expectations for client service and how people are treated, I'd see in where you were getting. It's a bit like, if you've been to the US, how you go into a shop and
customer service is just at that level, right?
We're not used to that, and we're like, we're not, and it was like that. But Nationwide, I said, in terms of customers and treating people, the culture is probably not probably, it is the best. Like, and that is a company that I would never have left. My only reason for leaving Nationwide was for career progression, because we kind of moved away from face to face, and it was restricted advice, and I wanted to become an IFA. But if I had the opportunity within, like, that is a business that I would never have left. Like,
Yeah. Which is great, and like you say, it's when you've got companies that give you, fill your heart with joy with like that. It just makes you feel good, and it's like, obviously it's what you're building with your team now at Attivo, which is great. So look, I've been speaking to you for an hour. I'd love to speak to you for more time, but I know you've got stuff to do, and look, we've got. It's been absolutely fantastic, and so thank you so much for for sharing your thoughts and your ideas and wisdom on with people around and everyone listening to you. And I hope that people are listening intently, because some of the stuff you've shared around how to engage with clients, how to build relationships, and how to really understand the other person that you're engaging with. Financial services is a tough place to sell, right? Because people are suspicious. They're a bit concerned. It's their life savings. It's their life's work that they're putting in the trust of you or your colleagues. And it does take time. So I think everything you've just described about how to build that rapport and engagement and to way to approach it is a real great thing to anyone in financial services that's listening to this. And not just in financial services, in business in general. I think everything you've said there could apply across any form of business. It's just do the right thing by the customer. Make sure that you're not focusing on you. You're focusing on what's right for them. Listen to them intently. Be interested in them. Be curious about them. Be determined to try and help them. And those are just great skills you can use in any industry. So. Yes. So look, absolutely, thank you so much for your time. It's been a real privilege, pleasure and as I say, I'm finding final question: how can people reach you? If people want to reach out to you online, LinkedIn's probably the best place to reach you.
LinkedIn, Bobby Sahota LinkedIn, or if they want to email me, it's bobby.sahota@Attivo. It's ATTIVO.co.uk.
Fantastic. Well, look, I know Bobby does reply, because obviously I reached out to her and said I'd love to have you on the podcast after seeing the interview she gave with Sam, and as I say, I know that you're going to be an inspiration and help to so many other people in different areas of industry that are keen to grow and become more successful as you've been. So thank you again, Bobby, for your time. I know that we'll be getting other people asking you to come back on the show. So maybe in a couple of years' time, we'll get you back on the show to share the progress that you've made since then as well. But look, Bobby, thanks so much again. It's really appreciated.
Thank you. Thank you for your time. I'll speak to you soon.
Right, so there was Bobby Sahota, who, again, fantastic insights on a diary of sales expert on how to become a successful business person. I think in general is the best way to describe that, not just about business and sales, but just about how to build strong relationships. So my thanks to Bobby for giving up her time. Hope you enjoyed this week's episode. If you have, please like and subscribe to the podcast, share it with other people. And we look forward to sharing another episode with you next week. Take care.